Hello again, dear viewers, and welcome back to the ancient dwarven hold of our ancestors. This last while in the ancient hold, I've been playing the video game The Ascent. The Ascent is an isometric action role-playing game set in a cyberpunk world. It was released in July 2021, developed by Neon Giant and published by Curve Digital. It is that time in the video once again where I beseech you, dear viewers, and ask that should you like what I do down here in the ancient hold, that you might subscribe to the channel, perhaps give a thumbs up and maybe leave a comment on your thoughts about the game. It really does help a lot. The Ascent is an isometric ARPG, similar perhaps to other games like Diablo, Grim Dawn, Titan Quest and all that. Similar, I would say, in perspective to those other games perhaps, with fighting being the overriding focus of the game while levelling up your character. There are several distinct differences, one being that rather than featuring challenging landscapes and levels full of bad guys and not a lot else, the Ascent is set in a bustling futuristic cyberpunk city full of people that on the whole are not your enemies, merely living out their lives here while trying not to get killed by gun-crazy lunatics like yourself. The game is set in a dystopian future where humanity and aliens live together in a vast mega-city type thing. Everyone is squished in with rubbish and good-for-nothings lining the streets. It is very much the futuristic and Blade Runner-esque vibe that the developers are going for, and I think they have absolutely nailed it. The city, with all the sprawling buildings and walkways, is wonderfully brought to life with vibrant colours and dirty streets. And the detail, dear viewers, there is just so much of it. There are all sorts of buildings, a lot of which you can go into, that rather than seem like simple set dressing, are rather what you would expect in a busy mega city. There are gun shops, outfit shops, armour shops, augment clinics, and your regular bars that are all full of people. There are taxi sites, back alleys, vending machines, great industrial constructs, and robots to boot. There is so much going on in the city itself that it is a joy just to run around the place and see what's behind the next corner. What I'm trying to say is that this game world feels like a lived-in and breathing one, and the developers should receive great praise for creating it. Besides the wonderful environment, the animations of your character as you make your way around the city and engage in many gunfights looks clean and fitting. The firing of weapons also looks cool, along with things blowing up adding more spectacle to proceedings. There is a lot of scenery that is destroyable, like vending machines, parked vehicles and boxes in the street. The art style is very much cyberpunk, very much futuristic and shiny, but at the same time grubby and dirty. Everything generally looks great, and I don't mind overly saying so. Considering how much is going on here, I was surprised by the lack of any big graphical glitches or stuttering and so forth. I have had a few minor glitches, but on the whole the game runs very well on my particular PC. The soundscape in the Ascent is very fitting for the aesthetic the developers were going for. It is all synth and atmospheric, adding another layer to this wonderfully woven tapestry of a game that Neon Giant has created. Again, it gives you that feeling of Blade Runner, and I don't think that is a bad thing to be compared to. The bangs of gunfire and the explosions and the thudding of robots as they clank along the ground is good too. Weapons give good audio feedback, with it feeling satisfying to blast away the baddies with a shotgun or a hand cannon. Connecting with weapons and generally blowing stuff up feels pretty good. There are cutscenes and dialogue, as well as phone calls you receive, which are fully voice acted. As your position in society likely denotes, most of the people you engage with are people on the streets trying to eke out their own existence, so their attitude towards you often reflects this. It is a dog-eat-dog world out there, with danger and betrayal commonplace. The voice acting for all of this is on the whole very good. It draws you further into this living world you're experiencing rather than detracting from it. At the start of the game, you begin as a lowly indent or indentured worker to the Ascent Corporation. You're not a lot higher than a slave, with you following the orders of the district boss or trying to earn your freedom from the corporation. When the Ascent group suddenly falls for some unknown reason, you're left to try and pick up the pieces and discover what has happened to them and to your own future. Gameplay revolves around you taking on missions from the main story, trying to discover what has happened, while also taking on side missions from other NPCs in the game world. Missions are wide-ranging, with you completing certain objectives like finding kidnapped workers, sabotaging the enemy, or simply collecting some steroids for a bodybuilder. Each mission has an associated level with it that will help you decide which missions to go for first. Whatever the mission objectives are, they will nearly always involve some level of violence. Usually you will need to take on gangers as you move through the levels towards an objective, with you getting stuck down in some ferocious firefights. The weaponry you will use to dispense with bad guys has good variation, suiting different playstyles. There are pistols and hand cannons that can hit single shot damage to thy foes, along with shotguns that you can use point blank to decimate enemies. For those wanting a more ranged fire focus, there are submachine guns, rifles and sniper rifles. There are also some more chunky weapons like rocket launchers, Gatling guns and even a weapon named the Dismemberer. I chose to focus mostly on handguns and shotguns for close-up action, driving around the place and dealing with enemies up close. You can upgrade your weapons at a gunsmith. They will improve the type of gun by one level, making it more powerful. You must collect components out in the world to upgrade them. There are certain enemies you will have to use certain weapons against, like robots and mechs, which require something impactful to knock through their armour, so it's good to have something chunky on hand when required. Your inventory is limitless, meaning you can carry every weapon you find around with you, with the only restraint being that you can only have 2 weapons equipped at a time, which you can switch between easily. The Ascent seems to have been designed somewhat as a twin-stick shooter, using a pad with 2 joysticks to control movement and the direction in which you shoot. Like the crazy PC gamer that I am, I use keyboard and mouse to play, and I think it worked out rather well. I could quickly target enemies with my mouse, and moving with the keyboard could be a little clunky, but I think it worked out good enough for me. Besides all the firearms, you gain access to grenades, along with other tactical equipment, like summoning little bots to attack thy foe, or calling down a mech you can get into and lay waste to baddies with. Additionally, there are physical augmentations you can get grafted to your body. These are kind of like special moves verging on superpower type things. There are 2 actives and 2 passives. For the active augments, I went with the massive power punch, which sends anyone in front of you, friend or foe, flying all over the place. The other one was the ability to jump into the air and then slam down on top of your opponents. So there is a lot to be done with kitting out your character. When you gain enough XP, you will level up, and each time you do so, you'll be given a number of skill points. Rather than attributes like strength, wisdom or whatever, you can distribute them in different aspects of gameplay. For example, you can increase your weapon reload speed, accuracy when firing and how much energy your body has for powering augmentations. You will not be able to max everything out, so like a wise old dwarf you must discern what to increase as aligned with how you want to build your character. A big part of playing in these cyberpunk-esque video games is the style. Lots of bright colours and visors and neon everywhere mixed in with some tech. In the Ascent you are able to wear different sorts of armour that will have their own look and statistics, but if you don't like what you're currently wearing, you can go to the stylist and change the look of any specific item to something that you've already collected. You can even change the colours too. This is great as I do like to mess about with how my character looks. I was going for the Blade Runner look with a long jacket and pistol to take down those baddies. Another key facet of gameplay is hacking. You have access to a deck, a big piece of hardware which you can employ to hack security doors, chests, health machines and even ATMs. Your deck too can be upgraded by finding components out in the world. Again, this really adds to the whole vibe the game is going for. When moving about the city, there is a fast travel function in the shape of a taxi you can call while out in any sector. It can drop you off at any other sector in the layer of the city you're currently in. If you don't have the cash for that, you can also make use of the subway stations that are littered around the city. One thing of note when out doing missions is sometimes you'll need to have progressed on a certain part of the main quest before you complete some of the side quests. Once or twice I was a little confused as to why an NPC was missing or there was some part of the world I couldn't get to complete a mission. One thing I wish I could have done was to be able to move the camera around or zoom in. There were a few times where I couldn't exactly see what was happening, and if I could have been able to move the camera, I think that would have helped a lot. I do understand that moving the camera around would also create a lot of work, so it's not a game changer. As I sit here stroking my mighty white beard and ponder the point of it all, I must say that this is a very good game. There was clearly a lot of care put into the creation of this world. There are several levels to the megacity you're in, and each of them is divided into different sectors which each have their own unique designs. There is the greasy underbelly of the city, with great big machinery all over the place and robots trying to keep things running. Then there are the numerous levels above full runways with shops and food outlets or taxi rides. There are great big nightclubs, monuments, great big habitation blocks of people and all sorts. This adds to a great backdrop to gameplay, with you running through the streets exchanging fire with a bunch of gangers or a big mech chasing after you. The Ascent is definitely worth it at full price, but at any kind of reduction it is most worthy indeed, sir. I didn't play any multiplayer, but I can imagine how much fun it would be to play with some of those fabled friends that everybody talks about. If you like ARPG gameplay, cyberpunk settings and or shooting guns at no good gangers, then I think this might be the game for you. It's not too long, and there's also a new Game Plus mode that you can sink your teeth into should you wish to play through it again. Go check it out, dear viewers. And there we are, dear viewers, another video by me here in the ancient dwarven hold of our ancestors. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I hope you are doing well. Thank you, dear viewers, and I shall see you next time.